Still saying scheduled, so I don't know if I'm live yet. Ah, there we are. 32 seconds. Jesus Christ, that was weird. Yeah, it didn't say that I was live. It kept on saying it was scheduled, folks. But anyway, welcome to Orange Hat Reviews, Mystery Review, Episode 20. So I am going to be reviewing a military movie that Epi Diaz in the chat has indeed accurately guessed through lines what it is. You know what they say, if you hit a deer, speed up. And another good Eckhart movie. Yes, it is true that this movie does star Aaron Eckhart. I did actually post that I would have liked a military service member or vet or military vet or possibly a Marine former or even active to come on. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I have to basically just go from a movie standpoint, because I was actually going to ask them about certain scenes, what they thought was accurate down to what military protocol and whatnot is. And yeah. But that didn't happen, so I will be doing this as strictly a movie reviewer. So yes, the movie is Battle Los Angeles. And this is I believe, a 2007 film. What year did Battle Los Angeles come out? March 11th. Oh, 2011. My mistake. So, yeah, 2011. So, this movie is also almost 2 hours long. And I wish they had done a continuation. This is a movie that definitely deserved like a continuation. This could have been a span of movies. Battle Los Angeles, Battle New York, Battle Mexico, Battle China, Battle all that. It would have been all great to see, because this is something that just I feel would have been a good series of movies, you know? So this movie was directed by Jonathan Liebsman, and I gotta say this movie was actually very well directed. That is one of the best parts about it, going for it. The cinematography in this movie does get shaky, but they did want to give a realistic tone to the movie. The special effects, the digital effects, could have been a little bit better in a couple of scenes, but for the most part, I thought that they were pretty well done. It does seem that my internet is kind of just shit in the bed a little bit. I am sorry about that. If I start getting jumpy or staticky, I do apologize. So I see that there's one person in the chat. How you doing? Thank you for stopping in. So let's get on to Battle of Los Angeles. This movie basically begins during the promotional icons like Columbia Pictures and Modern Films and whatnot, with news reports overlapping them, basically playing during the promotional studios and whatnot, where reports of a meteor shower is landing around the world. And it starts with the date August 11th, 2011, showing, or it shows on-ground engagement, a lot of, or it shows military shooting at the enemy. The enemy is not really shown clearly, but it's just chaos, basically. The reports of multiple coast cities being invaded, they emphasize that LA is their last line of defense on the east coast of the United States the United States. The main characters, all of them Marines except for a corpsman and a or a Navy corpsman and an Air Force officer, or not officer, but soldier or whatever. I'm not the best military jargon. Sorry. So they're getting flown in to the into the forward operating base, the FOB. But you think that they're actually getting flown into combat. How you doing, Jay Chattel? Thank you, and good morning to you, and that you're lurking. Thank you very much. So when they start hitting turbulence in their or in that scene, they then cut to 24 hours before the invasion, or 24 hours before meteor impact, as they call it. So I like how this movie actually labels each main character. This actually is done in a way to get you invested into all of these characters that are part of this Marine unit. And it's really done well. It's so you know who is who. And you get unit, or the unit is basically Corporal Stabro, Corporal Harris, Corpsman Adukwu, or they call him Doc, Lance Corporal Guerrero, Lance Corporal Kearns. He is one with a PD or kind of PTSD case. Corporal Lockett, a brother of one of the main character, Staff Sergeant Nance. He's the brother of one of his former unit members who died in Nance's last tour. Second Lieutenant Martinez and Private First Class Moynahan, Corporal Imlay, and Corporal Grayston. Now, you will see some faces if you have watched movies or like Marvel movies and other movies. You will see a lot of faces that you might recognize. The one who plays Moynahan, Noel Fisher, he also plays Michelangelo in the newer TMNT movies that nobody likes to talk about. Michael Pena is also in this movie. This movie has a great cast. Michelle Rodriguez is a tech sergeant for the Air Force. Bridget Moynahan, she's a civilian in this movie. You get a lot of great people for this. Lucas Till, who played Havoc in the earlier or in the later X-Men movies of the past, like 60s, 70s, and 80s movies. So yeah, this actually, or Ramon Rodriguez, Michael Pena, which isn't, he usually is known for his comedy roles, but in this movie, it's anything but comedy, you know? This movie has a very serious tone to it that really makes people think, and it's like, what the hell, man? But yeah, I like how this is an on the ground. This basically makes this movie's cinematography makes you feel like you're in the movie. It makes you feel like you are in the situation with these people as the situations unfold. So the movie's main character is Marine Staff Sergeant Nance. He's the one that basically is the followed character of this movie, who's just retiring only to be reinstated under an emergency. Now, I've actually talked with my mom, who's actually former military herself, and she explained to me that if you are an officer or if you are of a high rank, you can be reinstated if they choose to reinstate you. That's also what happened to that Marine that recently got in trouble because he called out higher ups and whatnot, and all he called for was accountability. I don't really agree with that decision. He retired, then they reinstated him only to throw him in the brig. But anyway, that's a separate issue from the movie. But I was wondering about that, and my mom basically explains, when you're in the military, if you are an officer or something, or high enough rank, you can be reinstated, and you have no choice but to do it. So yeah. He's also not liked by many recruits who think he got his men killed in his last tour. The conversation of him getting approval of retirement hints at that tragedy. He did 20 years in the Marine Corps, so yeah, he tells his friend, he's like, Marine has a shelf life. I did my 20, and I know when it's time to quit, you know. And I like the camera work in this conversation when he's talking to his friend who signs his release papers. So, because it shows that he is indeed sorry to see Nance go. And then Nance takes a look at his file, and he's like, everything I know is in this folder, you know? So it's that small bit of regret that he has. And then you see him outside saluting the flag, and he mumbles something to himself. You can't really understand what it is, but I'm guessing that it is one of the creeds to the Marines, or the creed of the Marine Corps. And he then looks down afterward. So if you hear that outside, I'm sorry if you do. So then we get introduced to the unit, which is Stavro and Harris are at a flower shop picking out flowers for Harris's wedding, and Stavro is like, "What you want is some hydrangeas," and then he sniffs a flower, and Harris is just hilarious. He's like, "The fact that you are a grown man enlisted in the Marine Corps sniffing a flower, that's just uncomfortable." And whatnot. It is very funny. And they're basically discussing Harris getting married, because he is planning on getting married very soon, 2 weeks before his deployment, because they're about to be deployed on something separate they didn't know about, or this is 24 hours before their deployment into the main story of the movie. They're 2 weeks from deployment originally. So then it goes to Navy Corpsman Adukwu, who has been assigned to this Marine Corps unit. And he's talking with his sister on Skype. And Lance Corporal Guerrero comes in. He's saying, "Man, she is fine. Is that your girlfriend?" and whatnot. And he's like, "That's my sister." Well, objectively, man, you know, she's pretty and whatnot. It's just hilarious. Then we get introduced to Lance Corporal Kearns, who is talking with a psychiatrist in the military, and he tells him, and he's going over that he hasn't had an episode. Walking by the firing range doesn't make him jumpy anymore. He wants to get back into the thick of things. And you immediately understand that this man has seen combat, except that it shook him up. It put him on a PSD file, basically, or a PTSD file. So then we get introduced to Corporal Lockett, who was visiting his brother at Arlington with a 5-iron, and saying that they're going to continue the tradition of going down to a golf course. Now, hold on one second, please. There we go. Sorry about that. So we are also then introduced to, at the golf course that night, after he leaves his brother's stone at Arlington, we get introduced to Lieutenant Martinez, who is putting on his stripes, and his wife helps him. And then he's getting ready to leave, and she's like, "Call me later." And he says immediately, as she's saying that, "I'll call you later." So it's a nice little moment between him and his wife. And then he gets down and kisses her very noticeable pregnant belly. So you are getting slowly invested in each one of these characters. It's a good way of introducing these characters, letting you know this is their life or when they're not doing their tour of duty right then. You then get, or so at the little golf course area, you get introduced to the rookie, Moynahan, who was a private first class, they call him, or they said his rank was. Corporal Imlay and Corporal Grayston are also there, or introduced later, actually. And so then we get reports throughout this whole thing when even when Nance was going into Camp Pendleton. He was, or you hear on the news radios and whatnot, that there are meteor showers and predictions of where they're going to be striking and whatnot. So Nance said he was going to Marine Training Corps grounds, or Marine Corps training grounds, and because he's training up a last group of trainees. And so then his first sergeant, the guy who signed his release, I think it was, it looked like him anyway. He's like, I'm pulling you back into the company. We need you. And he's like, first sergeant, all hands on deck, staff sergeant. So this movie is very quickly setting up the seriousness of the situation. This movie's pace is even, but also fast. It's a 2-hour movie. It's an hour 56 minutes, but it's good. So Nance is brought back in to assist with they're mainly tasked with evacuating civilians from Santa Monica. So, but it's quickly turning into a combat situation as the news reports showing a Coast Guard cutter getting overturned and aliens are on top of it, and then aliens are on the beach starting to attack the civilians. They immediately start doing this. So they, during the mission briefing, they tell them this is no longer just an evacuation. We're at Threat Con Delta, which is what they call it. I'm not a military expert by any means, sir, or folks. And so he's like, this is a combat situation. And the guy that was talking with Nance when he was rolling him in to their operations center, he tells him that the Lance Corporal, or Second Lieutenant Martinez, he's just out of officer training school, basically. He's a kid. He's younger than Nance. And before that, you also get this lieutenant talking to Corporal Imlay, or was it Lance Corporal? Yep, Corporal Imlay, and he's like, our staff sergeant is being replaced by Staff Sergeant Nance. What do you know about him? He's a dedicated Marine, sir. Don't bullshit me, Corporal. What'd you hear about his last tour? Only the grimy details that everyone else knows. So basically, Nance has a history. Everybody thinks they know what happened with Nance's unit back during his last tour. So then when they are now catching up to the point where the movie began and then went back in, they have the Marines loading up, and Lockett stops by Nance, giving him a look after Lockett is introduced, or Nance is introduced into the unit, and everybody's looking at him like, Jesus, we're stuck with this guy. He wanted to get out, and now we're stuck with him, you know? So Lockett looks at Nance, and he's like, you got something you want to get off your chest? No, sir. You got a Silver Star, and my brother came home in a pine box. I get it. So basically, he's shoving his distrust right into Nance's chest, letting him know right off, nobody here likes you. Nobody here trusts you. None of it. But we will basically maintain discipline, which they, for the most part, do. So then time catches up to the beginning of the movie. They're on there's some playful banter, and one of them, I believe it's Guerrero, he asks, he's like, Staff Sergeant promised me that you won't let me get taken alive by some godless predator from another planet, sir. And he's like, no promises in combat. And he then tells him, "I'll get, or this isn't a practice. Get your head in it. This is real." And all of them are reacting, and he's like, or their reactions basically say it all. This man has seen combat. Maybe we should keep our head in it and whatnot. One of them takes off one of his dog tags and slips it into the laces of his boot. And the doc explains to Moynahan, who's wondering what the hell he's doing. He's like, that's in case his head gets blown off in combat so that they can identify the body. Moynahan's just looking panicked. So you know that Moynahan's going to be basically, he's going to be the first one to panic. If you see him in this movie, you know that he's going to be the first one to panic, because even Nance told him, breathe, Moynahan, your training will kick in. So now they get a ride. They're actually getting a ride to the forward operating base, even though they were riding over an active combat zone. So the orders that they receive are to get civilians out of areas designated for destruction, meaning that they're going to level the entire area at 7:30 p.m. or 19:30 hours. And the military defense line, or also, this is why I actually wanted a person who was in the military, so I can understand certain things that they do and certain things that they're saying. It would have been a lot better in the stream if they had, but I got to do it by myself because nobody was able to come in. Anyway, they even say that if you don't get out of this area, with or without you, those bombs will drop. And this has to happen. So 17:30 or 19:30 hours, if you are not out of the bombing area, you're going to die. So it does basically make me wonder, would they actually drop even if there are civilians present in a combat situation? So yeah, Jade Shadow, like what? That's one of the things I'm actually wondering. Would they actually just level an area knowing that there are still military personnel and civilians in that area? I mean, yeah, I know it's an alien invasion movie, but in a combat situation, would they do that? You know, that's what I'm actually wondering. So another thing that makes me wonder about the discipline of these Marines, they go into the area where they were sent to get civilians out, and they're making their way towards a police station. But on the way there, they get into heavy fog, and a dog literally comes in, and just all of them just get like, oh, cute little dog and whatnot. And then suddenly they're under fire. It's like, you guys let yourselves be distracted by a dog? Aren't you Marines? I mean, yes, folks, as a civilian, it's easy for me to say this, but honestly, that's why I wanted a person who was enlisted to actually help me with some of this, to actually, it's like, does this shit kind of happen, you know? Is that the military perspective you needed, or you need? I didn't get anything before that. I mean, I'm guessing, let me pull up the Facebook, because I think your previous comment to that did not get posted, Jade Shadow. So let me just pull that up and see, because I got this one and then this one. So let me see if there was a comment in there that needed a mod to approve it. And also, let me make sure that that's muted, which I'm pretty sure it is, because, yep. No, there is no comment in the middle. But yeah, I mean, what questions do you have, since I'm a vet? Basically, the questions like the ones I asked, would they actually level an area at the time designated, even if there is civilians present, even if, or with known information that civilians are still in there and that military are still in there and working to get them out? Would they halt it, or would they actually do it? You know, would they actually level the place, even with friendlies in the area? That's the question, because they say that they're going to level the entire Santa Monica area a mile in from the beach. That entire area is going to be just carpet bombed, essentially, I'm guessing is how we're planning on doing it. So that's basically what I'm asking, is what kind, or would they still drop with, or knowing that there are still friendlies in those areas? I mean, these are the things that some civilians do actually ask questions about. Also, if a unit is in an active combat situation and a freaking dog rolls up to them, are they going to stay focused, or are they going to get distracted by a dog, you know? I mean, that was something that I'm like, something just tells me that the dog would not, or yeah, I know they're human and all, but still, would they get, stupid vehicles outside, would they actually get distracted by the dog? I mean, especially if you're going up against an unknown enemy. So yeah, those are kind of some of the questions I have. And then, so they get to the, or while they're getting shot at in this engagement, Moynahan gets separated because he freaks out. I mean, he just loses it and runs while shooting. He gets locked down into a laundromat room while everybody else is tending to wounded and whatnot after the first engagement. You start seeing the lieutenant start questioning himself because he led his men right into an ambush. As for the second question, depends on the people. It's plausible they could get somewhat distracted. Okay. And as for the first one, because the first one is like, would they level an area knowing that there are still friendlies in the area? Or as far as the second question, okay. But yeah. So then Nance basically is like, you can't do that to yourself right now. You have to stay on point. This is you're in command, sir. You got to make these choices. And he reminds him of that. And so then they have to go, or they finally realize that Moynahan's missing. So they go after Moynahan. Moynahan's letting him know, trying to let him know where they are. So then he gets to a firefight with one of the grunts, the aliens, and he shoots it into a pool. And then he starts shooting at the pool. And then the Nance and a couple others find him, and they're like, "What are you shooting at?" And it then just pops up before he can answer. So they shoot it again. It drops down in the pool, and Moynahan's freaking. He's like, "They don't die. You shoot them 100 times, they just don't die." And he orders Imlay to drop a frag into the pool. So he drops a frag or a grenade in the pool, and he's like, "Frag out." And you then see the pool go a different color. So then on their way to the police station, they come up, or as far as the first question, it's very complicated. ROE wants to eliminate collateral damage as much as possible, but the scenario might dictate a time limit that forces them to bomb an area. Okay. Hey, rough girl, always great to have you passing through, girl. Thank you so much. Make sure you leave a like while you're passing through. And yes, folks, please smash that like button because it really does help the channel. It helps it more than you know. So, yep. And ROE, rules of engagement. Yeah, I know a little bit of the shorthand, so to speak, because I am a military, or my parents were both military. They were actually MPs, but I don't think they ever went into active combat. So they do got medals, though. So then they get to the police station, and this is where you're introduced to one of the hints, Bridget Moynahan. You're also, and during the time, one of the other hints was retreat hell. Hey, Orange, what are we talking about today? Battle Los Angeles, men along. Battle Los Angeles with Aaron Eckhart. And thank you for dropping in. Make sure you leave a like while you're here. So they finally all get back together, and they get into the police station. They find the civilians. They call in the medevac because they also have wounded, and the medevac can't take the civilians. So they only take the wounded, Moynahan and a few others, or 3 others. And they're trying to bring out the kids, but they're already lifting off. And it's like, we can't take the civilians. We only got room for 4. So wounded only. I did hit the like button. Thank you, Metalong. And yeah, I also noticed that somebody freaking left a thumbs down on this. It's like, who the hell leaves a thumbs down on a movie or on a review they don't even know what is going to be reviewed, you know? But anyway, what's this? Yeah, it's not important, apparently. But anyway, so as they're lifting off, you see Moynahan give a final smile to his unit, and then a ship just flies right through the damn the helicopter, the medevac, and it's like, holy shit. So yeah, that happens, and because they actually, during the mission briefing, or the secondary mission briefing of the evacuations, they're like, the Air Force is going to bomb level the place because they have no aircraft, so we're going to rule the air. So then you quickly learn that now they do have aircraft and they are ruling the air. So when they get into contact with a couple others, or some other Marines and a tech sergeant from the Air Force, played by Michelle Rodriguez, Tech Sergeant Santos, you learn that they had information on, or intel as they call it, on a possible command and control center, but the asset fell off the grid. That's what they're saying. And I do like some of the words that they use. I mean, it's just spy and military shit. That's always interested me. So back into the police station, after they find out that they have aircraft, or that the enemy has aircraft, Martinez starts losing his shit. How you doing, Riot Kitty? Great to see you. Make sure you also leave a like too. More likes, more my channel gets noticed, and I'm trying to get it noticed so I can finally get up to 1,000 subs. But anyway, morale starts dropping, and Martinez starts having a fit. Basically, he lost 4 of his men. He led them into an ambush. He's losing it. So Nance comes up to him. He's like, you have to put that shit away. He's like, have you? Yes. And you won't, or you're not the first person to lose men. You won't be the last. That's the name of the game when it comes to what we do. And we also get introduced to Michael Pena, who is known as Mr. Rincon in the movie. It's not a comedy role, but he still does great acting. Everybody knows Michael Pena for his comedy roles. This is a movie that he was put in where it's not a comedy role, but he does a great job still. I mean, the acting in this movie is award worthy. I don't care what anybody says, it's award worthy. All these professional critics just suck nowadays, you know? So Bridget Moynahan has her nieces. She's talking to Nance, and while they're waiting for further orders and whatnot, and waiting for a way to get out of the police station, they have Kearns and Imlay up top, I believe. And so they're looking for a way to get out of there, and they spot a bus. So it's like, okay, we got a bus. We can get out of here. It's a big target, but we're making the call, and we're getting out of here. Then they also find a wounded alien. So they do what they have to do. This is a nice little gathering intel situation where they bring the alien and then just start stabbing the shit out of it, trying to find where these things are or can be shot or engaged at, finding a weakness, so to speak. And they find a weakness basically right at the chest where the heart would be, or on the right where a heart would be on the left, and whatnot. So that tells you, so now that they have their little anatomy lesson, they are able to effectively fight any more oncoming forces. After that, they have to get out of the police station because they receive, or a few more grunts of the aliens get in there, and they have to shoot their way out. So they get on the bus, and Stavro is the one who hotwires the bus. He's like, "He's from Jersey, sir. Stavro knows how to wire anything." It's a nice little jar or back and forth. I mean, a lot of the lines in this are pretty well done. So they then see that, or the radio, or they're calling in orders and whatnot. They're saying that they're en route to the forward operating space, and then one of the aircraft that they saw stops and lets loose one smaller aircraft, and it's starting to do a sweep search. And Nance puts it together. They're tracking our signals. So they turn off all the radios, and he gets off the bus, takes one radio with him because he knows that the thing is going to eventually find them. And he then takes the radio, activates it, and right by a gas station, finds cover, and throws a grenade when the aircraft gets close to a gas station. So they take out that one small aircraft. And then he goes and checks the aircraft, and he realizes it's a drone. So there was no one in the drone, so he feels that he did, or it was for nothing, but that's still more intel that they can use. All of their aircraft is unmanned, which he confirms to Santos, the tech sergeant, because she says Northcom agrees with you, otherwise they wouldn't have sent me in. We have intel of a control and command center, but it fell off the grid, so that's why I was here to provide a strike package, as they call it. So after all of the other Marines give their celebration of Nance taking down the drone, Bridget Moynahan comes up after they say retreat hell again, and she asks him, what does that mean, retreat hell? And during World War I, an officer of their regiment, 2nd Battalions or 5th Marines, was ordered to retreat. He said, retreat hell, we just got here. So then we get up to the bridge where they have a clear shot to the forward operating base, but then we realize that the ramp exit is gone and they start getting engaged again on the bridge. The bridge firefight shows that they have even more small or destructive weaponry that literally can blow a tank into the air. So it's like, holy shit. And this is where they have to rappel the kids down and where they have to earn. This is where Lieutenant actually bites it. They're trying to pack a car full of C4, but the detonator gets destroyed. And then Lieutenant's like, I have another bag of C4 on the bus. Get the men out of here. Get this. Or he has a note to his wife that he hands to Nance, and he's telling him, get out of here. He's like, no, sir, I'm not leaving you here. I'm not leaving you here. And he tells him, no, not again. Well, everybody knows that Nance has that stigma attached to him where he's not leaving any men behind. And whatnot. So, yeah, he's like, that's an order. Look after these Marines. That is an order. Get them or get these civilians out. So the lieutenant grabs the detonator with the other C4, activates his radio, says, this is Second Lieutenant Martinez of the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, hoorah, and then hits the detonator, blowing him up. And everybody's looking at what just happened. Also, before that, Mr. Rincon tries telling Doc that there's an alien coming. So he ends up picking up a rifle that was dropped by the injured officer that Doc was attending to, or injured soldier, and he shoots the alien, killing it, but the alien got a shot off hitting Rincon. So he's now injured. And everybody's looking at the bus after it got blown up by Martinez, and Lockett asks Emily, he's like, did he just leave the lieutenant back there to die? Sure looks like it. So now you're seeing that there's more distrust being built because of Lockett's own bias and Emily's own suspicions and whatnot. So they get to a small store that's just outside of the bombing zone. So they actually got out of the bombing zone area, and they wrap Rincon in a thermal blanket to keep him warm because, well, you're losing a lot of blood, so you're losing a lot of iron, which helps keep the body warm and whatnot. And Nance tells Rincon, while he's helping Doc, about his last tour. And he's like, I've lost men, and during my last tour in Beirut, there was no right call. You go right, you go left, it didn't matter. And he lost a lot of good men. So Rincon has a moment where he takes Nance's hand, and he's like, will you look after my son? Because he knows he's going to die. And he tells him, yes, I will. So then they get ready for the bomb drop because they're about 60 seconds away. So they have everybody down. And then after time passes, they're like, what happened to the bomb drop? Because it doesn't happen. And so they're like, we got to get to the FOB, find out what's going on. So they get everybody to the FOB, to the forward operating base. I'm trying to plug in my damn laptop here. There we go. And that's when Rincon passes away with his son, Hector, who was also there. And Nance and Emily are in the commander's hooch, as they call it. And they're looking for maps, tactical maps. And he's like, or what are all these red marks? They're gone. What? So they've been moved? No, they've been wiped out. And then Doc comes in. He's like, trying to get Nance's attention. He's like, Doc, find a M16, get yourself some water. He's like, Mr. Rincon is dead. Well, you lost one of the civilians, so that sucks. And he goes out and he sees Hector trying, or basically as a small kid, wake up, Dad, please. And the kid is overwhelmed with grief. So Bridget goes in trying to comfort him, and the kid runs. And he's like, I don't want to be here. I want to leave and whatnot. He goes up to Nance, and yeah, I'm getting a little emotional. My eyes are actually starting to water from this because it's a very sad scene. And I am human like everyone else. So yeah, I cry. He tells him, he's like, your father wanted to stay with you. And he tries comforting the kid. And he tells him, he's like, I need you to be brave. I need you to be my little Marine. And Marines don't quit. So say it for me. Marines don't quit. And all the other soldiers are there looking at him, comforting the kid. And he's like, we are not losing another one of those civilians. You understand? And then Lockett basically has had enough. He's like, are you going to get us out too, Staff Sergeant, or are we expendable? So he goes right up to him. He's like, all right, Lockett, you want to go there? Let's go there. I commanded men, and men died. Kids, 18 years old. Best men I've ever led. Do you think for 1 second that I wouldn't rather trade positions with any one of them? I know you all, and he looks at all of them. He's basically getting right back at him. He's like, I know you all think I got my men killed. They're dead. I'm here, like the punchline of a bad joke. You think I like that? You think for 1 minute those faces aren't right here, seared into my brain? And then he gets right up in Lockett's face, and he tells him his entire unit's names, ranks, and numbers. I'm guessing serial numbers, or ID numbers. And he ends with Lockett's brother. And he tells him, your brother was an outstanding Marine. He was my best friend, and I miss him every day. And you remind me of him. Now we have to stop that, or none of this matters now. We have to get out of here. We have to move forward, discard all lingering doubt, and get ourselves out of here, basically. The acting in this moment, the camera work, all of it, the score by Brian Tyler, by the way, who has always done a wonderful job with his scores. It gets you emotional in this scene. Every time I cry in that scene. I actually have tears go down my face in that scene. And so they get him out, or they leave the forward operating base. They call in for an alternate extraction route. And they have an engagement with aliens en route. And one of them gets into or smacks into the Humvee with Michelle Rodriguez and Harris, it's his character, or the character Harris. And so she shoots it and gets a bunch of goo all over her face. And she's like, oh, God, and whatnot. He's like, you okay? I got that nasty stuff all over my face, man. And so Harris just starts laughing, and she's like, that's not funny. You let him do you on the first date? It's just so freaking hilarious, you know? I mean, it's a nice little funny moment. And so they finally get to the extraction. And the guy goes there. He's like, what happened to our air? All of our assets were pulled back. They were swatting us down like flies. We're abandoning Los Angeles. And so they finally get evac'd. And then as they're on their way out, well, something just played heck with their power. They literally lost power mid-flight, but then power went back up. Well, they're like, what the hell is that? Imlay is looking out with a night vision cam. And he tells Staff Sergeant, look through, and you see this blacked out area where it's lit up everywhere around it. Kind of almost looks like an upside down bat signal. But anyway, or Batman emblem from Snyderverse. But he's like, he goes over to the tech sergeant. He's like, you were tracking RF signals. Could a concentration of those signals cause a power outage? And she's like, yes, definitely. Why? So then he tells the guy that, or he tells one of the guy or medevacers, he's like, bring us down there. I need to recon that area. Or no way, it's suicide. This is our last chance. We have to get down there. We can't land. We don't know if we'll have enough power to take off. So sorry for that, folks. The internet. It's just a pain in the ass right now. So I'm sorry about that. So where was I? Basically, the Marines or Nance gives the letter that was going to Martinez's wife to Bridget Moynahan's character. And he's like, this is a letter from Martinez's wife. Will you get it to her? And she says yes. And so he then says, you're the bravest Marine I've ever seen, Hector. And then he rappels down as they're hovering at 40 feet because they found the command and control asset. So he tells Emily that he's in charge and to get the cities out. So as he's about, welcome back. Gotta love the internet, way of the future for pissing you off faster. Exactly, Menalong, exactly. Holy crap, dude, you have no idea how accurate you are. But yeah, so then after he rappels down, you see other ropes fall or drop down as well, and then you see the rest of them go down too, and nodding that we're with you. Marines don't quit. So they move in to under a bridge, and they're looking for the command and control center. And Nance asks, he's like, Santos, if you were hiding a command and control center and you didn't want it destroyed, where would you hide it? And she tells him, underground. So they get into the sewers. And one of the, so they get into the sewers, they find there's a lot of alien tech down there, and they end up getting to the command and control center. So they get back above ground and they see a part of it sticking out the top. This thing is massive, by the way, so it's only that small little spire that's sticking out from the top. And they're like, okay, we need to call in a strike package. And they're like, all of our aircraft is down. Well, if Edwards Air Force Base is still capable, they can do ground-to-ground missiles, and which they call copperheads. So I do not know the specifics of that type of missile. Hopefully, if Mara is still listening, she knows which type of missile it is, because I don't. Anyway, so Kearns he's like, I'll call in the strike package. He's like, you call it in, or you got to understand that area is very exposed. The second you call it in, the second you're done calling it in, get out of there, because they're going to track your position right to you through the transmission. And so they call in the strike package, and he's like, does everybody understand what that means? He's like, it means we're going to have to hold them off until the package gets here. And they're like, that's right. And then as this is a PG-13 movie, you get your obligatory F-bomb. So he's like, let's hold off these suckers and let them know who they're fucking with. So obligatory F-bomb, pretty good, or pretty good choice of where to put it, So then they're fighting, or they're having their engagement, waiting for, or they have the big ass laser to laser the target. And Kearns, after he calls it in, he's about to get off, but get out of the area. I was at the deli. What missile? They call it a copperhead, so it's a ground-to-ground missile, Mara. So fired from Edwards Air Force Base in the movie. So yeah. Kearns then saves Nance because an alien was right on top of him, and he's actually able to kill it with one shot. But as he's about to get down, one of the aircraft spots Kearns and then shoots him, or blows the top of the area where it tracked the radio signal. So there's an engagement then, and one of the missiles or the strike package goes through, knocking out the spire to the top of this command and control center. So then the command and control center rises out of the ground, and the drone aircraft are trying to haul it out. Now, they also have a bazooka, or whatever they call it in real terms. But Harris is like, it's getting away, I'm going to take that shot. And he's like, doesn't have enough punch. Hold that shot, or save that shot. I have to look it up. I mainly know SAMs and ASMs. Surface to air missile, and I'm guessing air to surface missiles. So they then have a second shot lasing the target. Another one is coming in, but a drone flies in, stopping that missile by taking the shot itself. So so then more of the firefight ensues, and they have to get the lasers or the laser thing back. Thank you. So air to surface missile, yeah. So the third shot is on its way. So Santos gets the bazooka because Harris went down, not dead, but he got knocked on his ass, and he has Santos use the bazooka to take out that last drone so that the missile hits the command center, and they end up blowing it out of the sky. So then the drones start falling down out of the sky, and they start advancing on their enemy as they're retreating. Now, I don't know the full thing, but usually, or from what I understand, in a combat situation, if they start retreating, you can either choose to advance or you can choose to let them go. Well, they chose to advance. I mean, understandable. This is an invasion force from another planet, so you want to let them know that that the second you start losing, or the second they start losing, they better get the hell out of Dodge quick. So then after they fully retreat and whatnot, and they're all out of ammo after shooting the hell out of them, they're on a chopper, another evac chop, and they're in the Mojave Desert at a temporary operations base, or TOB. And all the other units around are praising them, or praising the 2-5 and whatnot. And the officer there is telling them, the intel you gave us is being sent to everywhere around the world to let them know just how to kill them all. Get yourselves some get some chow on you. You guys have earned it. Get out of that gear. So they're all sitting in the tent, and Nance sees more ammo and whatnot, and they're all taking a rest. They're all bloodied up, and they're just sitting down, basically letting the adrenaline get out of them. Well, Nance starts loading up his magazines with rounds and starts getting more munitions and whatnot. And then Imlay follows, then Lockett follows, and then everybody else starts following. And the officer comes in. He's like, "What are you doing, Staff Sergeant?" "We already had breakfast, sir." And then they head out. Now, I was actually watching this movie with a friend of mine one time. He's like, and he actually asked, he's like, why the hell would they go back in after that? It's like, well, it's duty. Duty is what compels them to go back into hell after they just got out of it. And it is a real emotional scene, too, because they just literally kind of went through hell, and yet they're willing to go right back in. And then you hear radio transmissions of all of them, or of all the aircraft going in. He's like, or they're all saying, "Welcome back," and whatnot. Good to hear a friendly voice. Let's take back Los Angeles. And that's where it ends. Now, this movie is a great movie, folks. As I said, this movie is top notch. Objectively, it is a 9 out of 10 in my opinion, in my objective opinion, without bias. There are some CGI issues in some scenes, and there is some parts that I wish they could have acted out a little bit differently or a little bit better. However, subjectively, this movie and moviegoer, it is a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved Battle Los Angeles. I really do wish they had continued it, because if they had done like a Battle New York or Battle Florida or whatever, it would have been freaking awesome. Because this movie just, it has a feel of being an extra added or part of a series, and I really wish they had continued with it. Jonathan Liebesman did a wonderful job directing or a lot of people might say that there are cinematography issues or camera work issues, but they wanted that down on, or they wanted this movie to look as if it was down in the grit with these Marines as they were fighting. So yeah, they wanted that to be like that. So I'm not going to take any points off for camera work that was shaky or whatever, because that is how they wanted it, you know? So, yeah, 10 out of 10 subjective and moviegoer, because this movie is truly a great movie. The score is freaking phenomenal. It's emotional. It gets you, it literally can get you to tear up in some moments. This movie is definitely an emotion puncher. It hits you right in the gut with emotions in certain areas. And that is another thing that I really like about movies, because movies nowadays, I'm not really getting that emotional feel. I'm not getting emotional in, where movies back in, before all the woke nonsense came up, you actually understand that these movies had heart put into them. And I'm really happy that this movie was made the way it was. So that's going to be the review for this week. Stay tuned for next week. The hints for next week are AMF and Lynch. So if you know it, don't put it in the comment section. If you know it, don't put it in there. I'm going to be putting the hints on Twitter after I end the stream. But definitely let me know in the guesses if you know it. If you know it, DM me your answers. If you don't know it, you can put your guesses in the comment section. But yeah, Lynch and AMF. For those of you who know it, I'm really going to enjoy doing that review, because it's also one of my favorite movies. Anyway, folks, that is going to be the review. I want to thank everyone. Metal Long, Jade Shadow, Riot Kitty, Rough Girl. Who else was in here? Epi the Oz, who guessed it correctly. Thank you all for tuning in and for staying in during the brief internet outage. So stay tuned for next week, and also stay tuned for this week, or for this free, or thank you, Metalong, great review. Stay tuned for Friday as my versus stream of MonsterVerse Mecha Godzilla versus Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim. And then next Friday is going to be the finale Terminator discussion streams, where me and the rest of the panel will be discussing how we would do a Terminator sequel and what would we put in the story if it was just after T2. So definitely stay tuned for those, folks. And thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for leaving likes and whatnot. It truly does help the channel. I'm still trying to get my watch hours up. I'm at 1650 right now. I'm trying to get it to 2,000 before the year's out. So if you could help me boost the watch time, I have playlists of all the previous discussion streams and versus streams. Give them a watch and whatnot. It really is helpful, and I do appreciate all the support you have given me thus far. I am very humbled by it as well. So anyway, folks, that is going to be the review. You all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of Battle Los Angeles? If you have seen it, did you like it? Did you not? What were your favorite parts in it? All that stuff, folks. Anyway, this has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble. And it doesn't want to end. And it's still going. I clicked the end of the broadcast thing and it's still freaking going. Oh my gosh. It's just a circle of death on that thing. And it doesn't want to end the broadcast. Lovely. Seriously? It doesn't want to end it. Having trouble connecting. Please check your internet connection. My internet connection's fine. Just end the damn broadcast. Oh my God. Well, this is just quite embarrassing, folks. Really?